Hi.
Hello.
Today we will talk about your piece. I have the rights to the story myself,
Yes.
and maybe shortly you can give some kind of background information. Who commissioned the piece and by whom it was, for whom it was composed.
So I started composing this piece from 2013, so 10 years ago. Then I complete this piece early 2016. It was premiered in 2016 at San Diego, California, commissioned by an American cellist, Taylor Borden from Mivos Quartet. I don't know if you know them. And we studied together and got to know each other during studies. And he played most of my earlier pieces when I was in San Diego. And he actually asked me to write for cello solo piece with electronics. But I suggested that, I want to add multimedia later on. And it took almost 4 years to complete this piece because I wanted to program my own complex audio multimedia system, which enabled to manipulate a lot of multimedia devices, such as video, a pre-recorded video, live video, painted lightings, and white laser, which are mostly controlled by audio process in real time.
And what is the story or concept behind the piece?
So the title, as you said, the title is I Have the Right to Destroy Myself. So this title came from one of the South Korean novel. So that book, I think 1990, I don't remember when it was written, sorry, but that book created huge sensation in South Korea at the time, because this novel talked about taboo, which most Koreans don't want to talk about it. So basically, this book talked about grouping committing suicide, which only exists in South Korean culture. Unfortunately, South Korea is the highest committing suicide in the world. So committing suicide is the huge issue in Korea still, and most Koreans are even prohibited to use the word suicide in Korea social media and newspaper. So if you watch Korean news and newspaper, there's no word for suicide. And this novel basically wanted to talk about how hidden extreme social pressure make South Koreans to tip themselves off a cliff for death. However, actually for my piece, I focused and I kind of like made the story like a person who undertaken to deal with trauma. So these pieces actually talk about more trauma and how he struggles with the memories, which constantly reflect ongoing his life by the dehumanizing nature of modern society. And ultimately, I wanted to address the savage, increasingly reveal the darker side of human nature to the audience, highlighting more than just our competitiveness, but also our pettiness and greed. So many people say this piece might be rough and direct. Many people say this piece is too direct, but I believe that there is something beyond the extremely complicated and oversaturated emotional sense, something that cannot be controlled by rationality nor logic.
Yeah. And how you choose the title of the piece?
How do I choose the title?
Yes. Why is this title?
Because
you just title of the book, or
Yeah,
or-
title definitely. So my point was definitely this title came. So I got the inspiration about the title, but actually, but this piece doesn't talk about committing suicide. But this is more, it's very personal thing. But at the time I was very depressed, very depressed, and I suffered from also insomnia, and then also I also had some alcohol problem, and it's kind of actually it's very personal piece. I think among my pieces, this is the actually most like very personal actually, yeah, piece.
And what you want to say, right? If it's personal piece, maybe there is some central message what you want to say to others with that piece, like some personal or
But it doesn't mean that like it's really complicated. But because this is my last piece when I was in. This is the last piece when I composed in the USA. So at the time, actually, I always said to people like, so my music is quite different since when I was in the US, and then now I live in the Germany. So it's very different. And I don't want to say very different, but big difference is at the time, I don't think I compose. Actually, at the time, I more used music to express myself. Like there's nothing, so there's nothing actually. I don't know. And there's nothing message. I just wanted to express, my inside anger, kind of things. But in Germany now, is I step back from my composition and I really try to compose. This is really important. So, so at the time, actually, if you ask me what is the message, and I don't, it's really hard to say. Of course, I can make up. Oh, I just mentioned the commit about grouping committing suicide. So, oh, this piece is talk about something, South Korean, whatever. But actually, this piece is more like, sometimes people really fucked up, and then it's just what it is,
Yes,
just,
got it.
this is, yeah.
Got it. So right, we just started. I asked you a question and we just started conversation, but we somehow you didn't answer till the end. Why you choose that title? What was the reason? It's just for the book or?
To be honest, it's simply like I feel like I am destroying myself now.
Okay, got it. Now I got it.
Yeah, but I don't want to be honest on
Okay.
video, like, it's because and then become is everybody look at this because after this piece, and then many people ask me, even my teacher asked me, Hon, you shouldn't use this, this title, because this title obviously implied the meaning that I want to die. So it's I don't know in your culture. My teacher said I don't know in your culture, but in America is maybe it can be problematic.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Right. As I understand, you have in this piece you have a sound.
Yes.
You have lights, right?
Yes.
And you have some video, right?
Yeah, but yes, but video.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah, no, it's three things going on. So pre-recorded video, live video, and then also there are some visual as well.
Yes, right. And sound, so four elements, right?
Yeah, sound also pre-recorded sound, also computer generating sound, and then also live sound.
Yes, so 6 elements.
Yes.
And what was right? This all like six elements, right? What was the logic? How you combine it, and what kind of experience you wanted to create me as a watcher of the piece, or somebody who is sitting and experiencing the piece, right?
Pardon?
What was a sensorial experience? What you wanna build with those
so
six
yes.
six different.
So these pieces opens a psychological dialogue that invites the listener into a linear space between the words of inner and outer action and inward emotion and outward engagement, and what is social and what is personal and social. So I believe that this process of psychological interaction will allow for a musical realization of images of mental state with their inherent emotional conflict and ambivalence. So in terms of sounding and multimedia layers, each multimedia components represent the psychic parts of the conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious. So conceptually, there are substantial contrasts between each psychic parts of the concepts, which is intertwined and competing and overlapping in order to create a state of confusion that represent the conflicting aspect of the mindset through the multimedia process. So simply now we are doing interview, but to me this is really one-dimensional. So people maybe let's say this is my artwork, and the people cannot see actually what is going on, the inside of what is happening. So now, because for example, now we talk about, you know, when we talk about the title, and then you cannot see, but there are definitely some emotional constant changing now in my head. But so that's why this is the piece. So now piece is, I don't want to show just interview. I also wanted to show the what is going on. When you mention about title, and then I said this is personal, my emotion is changing. But how can I show this emotion to the audience? Okay, how can I make this like you know, dimensional way to show the everything, all the sense. Yeah.
Got it. And then what kind of stages? How many stages, or what is the form of the piece?
Form. You mean what was the process of composing, or
not what the person, but what is the form, right? How many stages, or what is the dramaturgy? How piece evolves or changes during the time?
I think at the beginning it's more. So from the beginning it's more, I use pre-recorded sound. So actually it's quite controlled. And then more I show, it showed more like a lighting. So people see the more silhouette. And in the middle of the section, I use, there are some part that like the cellist, they hit the on the fingerboard of the cello. And then pre-recorded videos pops up on the screen. And then sometimes it's overlapping with the live video, but sometimes it's just show the pre-recorded video. So I wanted to represent something like, we in English we say like, some memories pop up in our head, So I wanted to represent something. Okay, this is life is going, but in the middle section, the trauma, the memories is constantly bother this person in ongoing his life. And then toward the end, is music also very, very loud, and then also very, and then also it's almost, so in computational process also at the beginning it's quite controllable, but at the end, toward the end, is less controllable. It's almost free. And then I wanted to show that how this person is going destroyed with this memory, and then ongoing his life. So I didn't want to show that what was the happening that he had in the past.
Yes.
This piece is more like now current his life, but something is memories pop up, and then what is reflect his current his life.
Yes, got it.
Yes.
Got it. And what kind of compositional principles are used for sound and
principle?
Yes, there's a lot of there is a lot of noise, right?
Yeah, one of your question. I think principle was I think the main principle for this piece is experiment with complex audio multimedia system. However, this piece shouldn't serve for testing technologies. So when I, if you go to some multimedia concert or, contemporary music concert, sometimes when I heard some of pieces, sometimes I had a sense that, oh, this piece is definitely just composed for showing off what technology is used, without critical way of artistic thinking. So I composed this very complicated, audio multimedia system, but I use super complex multimedia for this piece, but I attempt to control these technologies only to realize the artistic frame of the realization. So I gave mission to myself that this piece must stands out by itself sonically, in regardless of multimedia and high technologies.
Yeah. Yes, got it. Got it. And what was the process of composing? How you started and
yes. So before starting composing this piece, I was the residency at International Digital Exploration of Art and Science in California. So during the residency, I composed a theatrical piece which involves lighting and live video and sound as well. And at the time, I was quite young, and my original plan was I wanted to do something like very interactive, video, interactive between like lighting, video, and sound, something like this. But after this residency, I realized that this is really not easy. This is not easy, and it takes a lot of time for rehearsals. This is really problematic because for theatrical concert, no problem, because they always, because if you go to theater hall, there always has a lighting designer. So you meet them because this person can control this lighting, booth and everything. And then you meet them and maybe you work on maybe several days and how to set up the lightings and so on. Theatrical performance event is fine because they usually prefer for a long time and a lot of budget. But for contemporary music, if you go to the concert, there's always 1 day for rehearsals, or you can use that. Sometimes you only have a few hours, and then you have to set up everything. Then practically, I realized that, oh, this is not working. This is really not working. And then after this project, I realized that, oh, I need to invent a complex audio multimedia system, which is designed that one main interface of one computer control everything, sound and other multimedia devices. Then I realized, okay, then maybe I can easily set up this within 1 day, so that I can, exchange data controlling, because my pieces has a lot of interaction between data exchanges between the audio and the multimedia. So I composed a piece at first, written score. And then I recorded sound from cello to make a tape part. And I told you there are also pre-recorded sound part. Then I designed a max MSP patch for electronic part. And after that, I had to research multimedia device one by one. So before composing this piece, quite frankly, I didn't know that much about multimedia. I know it, but I don't know how to make this happen in a sophisticated way. So I needed to research at first, then try to find a way how these multimedia devices can be controlled by one interface of the max MSP. So I learned live video process at first. So Max MSP already has a live video tools, which is called Zeta. So I used that one for controlling video part. Then after that, I learned about lightings. I use pentity lightings. So pentity lighting is, of course, there's a lighting, but also you can control the angle. So fortunately, there's some possibility to control between lighting device and max MSP through, which is hardware is a DMX called DMX USB Pro. So you can connect to the lighting and then, between like an interface between the lighting. So DMX USB Pro, and then you can connect to the computer, and then you can control the lightings through the max MSP. The last thing I was learn wire laser system. So I had to build my own laser machine. So I bought some module and the things from the China. And then this wire laser connected to Arduino. Then also I connected to my computer. But after that, so I check all the devices separately. Then after that, I combine all of these devices together and design for one interface for one computer for this system. Yeah.
Got it. And would it be different? Can you imagine the piece, first of all, without visual part, right? Without video, lights, live video, lasers. Can you just imagine that?
Yes. Actually, this
like sound only, right? Like
only
sound.
Yeah. Actually, last year this piece was actually performed at ZKM. Do you know ZKM? Karlsruhe. Electronic Music Research Lab. ZKM is one of the biggest electronic music research lab. Karlsruhe in Germany. So this piece actually was performed last year without multimedia, actually. So actually, I have a both version, and with a multimedia and without multimedia. So both versions are slightly different. For example, I think without multimedia, I emphasize more physicality and theatrical element because people directly see the the performer. And also I cut and reduce the middle of the section, because in the middle of section I told you, middle of section there are a lot of pre-recorded video pop up, but sometimes they pop up during the silence. So it's interesting if you look at the video, but without video, it's just silence. So I was worried that it can be boring. So I cut a lot middle section. So without multimedia version is shorter, like 2 or 3 minutes shorter. And I believe that both versions enable the audience to have a different perception. Again, for multimedia version, I wanted the audience to perceive in a psychologically interactive process of the human being through complex audio multimedia system in a various dimensional ways. On the other hand, without multimedia, because there's a missing information from multimedia, I wanted to provide incomplete, ambiguous perceptual elements to the audience in order to promote participation in the piece so that they can create their own perception. So I believe that this approach can provide the context for each performer's audience to create their own sonic environment. So simply, multimedia version is more direct. I told you this is. I wanted to show this is. This is who I am. This is my anger.
But so, can you?
So multimedia version is more direct and personal, and express energy from inside from myself. But without multimedia, became much more abstract. And present energy outside of myself.
Right. As I understand what you said, right? You said that you can, and you already did it, right? You can take out multimedia, right? And then emphasis is on gestures, right? Can you imagine the same piece but only like for radio, like sound only, right? Like SoundCloud. You put into SoundCloud without seeing gestures, right?
And then Oh, and then maybe, and then we also need to talk about physicality. So it's a really important question because like 2 weeks ago I had a concert. I'm also improviser. I don't know, I mentioned to you, but I'm also improviser. And 2 weeks ago I had a performance. But when I played improvisation, I show a lot of my physicality. I have many gestures, and the people
Yes.
see my face. And then I uploaded yesterday actually my improv recording, and then one of my friends listened to that piece, and they also actually she came to my concert, and then she called me, "Oh, this is the same piece?" And then I said yes, and then she said it sounds different, and then I realized, as you said, because physicality. So actually, physicality is quite important to, and then also give us some different perception to the audience, and then. I don't know. I don't, to be honest, many people say I don't know, many people say, even my friend, who I talked with yesterday, she said, my piece always better to listening in the concert rather than recording.
Yes.
I think because of the physicality.
Yes.
And I don't know, it's, I don't want to say which is better, but I don't know. Maybe I want to say this is different.
Yes, good. And can you imagine the piece but without sound? Only multimedia, right? Is this possible?
That's good. That's interesting question actually.
Like visual only, right? Visual only.
Only visual, and there are some like action, theatrical action, or
Yes.
not?
Yes, there is action. But there is no sound.
No sound.
Yes.
I never thought about it, but I think that's possible. But for this piece, maybe not possible. I don't know. Maybe not possible because I think sound is more is more prominent, I think, element for this piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you said, right, that the last part of the big part of this visual part was programmed in Max SP, right?
Max MSP, yes.
And did you do it on your own or how?
Yes, everything I did my own because yeah, it's funny because it's a really interesting question because I came from UC San Diego. I don't know you heard about UC San Diego, but UC San Diego is known as.
I know that. Okay, so I think I even interviewed somebody from San Diego. If you will ask me a question, cool, I would be confusing to answer, right? And definitely, I know the name, but nothing more, right?
Yeah. Well, so what did you say?
But I don't know nothing more, right?
So UC San Diego is.
But San Diego is West Coast, right? It's West Coast, right?
Sorry, what did you say?
It's United States, as I understand it. It's West Coast and East Coast. It's
yeah.
It's nearby San Francisco, right?
No, nearby Mexico. Actually, it's
Mexico. Okay,
yeah. Actually, it's a. Do you know Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
So like 2 hours away from Los Angeles, and then 30 minutes away from the border of Mexico. It's really close to Mexico. And so actually San Diego has a very strong computer music program. So actually when I went to the school, I expect that maybe people might help me for this building up this patch.
Yes.
But no one helped me because it's really it's tricky question. I don't know. If you go there, you have to research and then you have to build yourself. And then especially I told you I started building up this 2013, so 10 years ago.
Yes.
Now as you know, there are many pieces for multimedia, right? There are so many pieces. But 2013, to be honest, when I was in San Diego, no one was composing for multimedia at the time. So actually, no one knows it. Like, for example, oh, I want, okay, just they're very simple things. Oh, I want to connect, how can I connect to the audio and then light? How can I control the data of the audio process controlling the data of lighting? Even when I ask professor, no one knows it. No one knows it. So, to be honest, Google is the, best teacher for us, So I just Google it and then, okay, maybe this object, I can use it. And then I bought the painted lighting and then I built a new, my own interface into the MaxMSP. And then white laser too. No one used the white laser at the time when I was in the US. So, okay, how can I buy this? And then I checked it, and then there's some a Chinese company has some white laser module. So I bought this, and then I made it my own, laser machine, and then how can I connect it? And then and then I just Google it, and then I need to learn Arduino. Okay, then I run Arduino. Then how can I connect to the Arduino to the MaxMSP? Oh, you have to use this, video intermediate, this software again, and it's complicated. But I just run step by step.
Yes.
And but through this process, actually, I learned really a lot. Really.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And what are the three biggest learnings, right?
Pardon?
You said you learn a lot, right? You said through that process, right? Through creating the piece, you learn a lot. You just said, and then the question is, what are the biggest three learnings for you?
Previous?
Yes. What you learned?
What did I learn?
Yes. What did you learn? Yes.
What did I learn? So many. You mean in terms of technological aspect or composition aspect?
Any, right?
It's too many. It's just as I said. How can I control the lighting? How can I exchange the data? And then how can I all this setup? And then even, for example, I didn't even know. For example, I told you they are pre-recorded. The pre-record, it should be pop-up, right?
Yes.
And then I realized we cannot turn on and off the projector. So which means actually lighting, so especially painted lighting also has a machine, the motor inside. And then even like projector also has a motor. So I wanted that it's fade in and fade out through the projector. But I told you, no one taught me. So I didn't even know how to do it. So how can I do it? How can I do it? I cannot turn the, projector on and off. Then I realized, okay, how about just show the black, black image, and then people are gonna see it looks like off, right? So basically, there's nothing projector is on and off. Just it shows us constantly black. But when I want to show the pre-recorded video, just black is disappear, and then the images pop up, something like this. And to make these things also is really complicated. And then also I use one computer control pre-recorded video and then live video. This is also really not easy. Yes. So so usually people use the pre-record video and the live video. They use two different computer. But again, I wanted to control all this one computer. So in the case, there's an object, and then I constantly off and on, like this. It's so like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, and many things. And then even like a lighting, lighting, and okay, how can I build up this lighting? And then there's RGB. You know that all of the colors is made by the red and then blue and the green. And then okay, then how can I make this color? And then all this actually color is controlled by the controlled by the live audio processing, the data from the live audio process. And then this is also, okay, how can I exchange this? And then this is really complicated. And then also, I also use spatialization. Do you know spatialization?
Can you explain what?
So spatialization is it's not sound. It's come from like it's not like a stereo. Spatialization.
It goes from different.
Yeah, exactly. Sound is panning and this, and then I don't know. I mean, so I use two different objects for this spatialization actually. So I use, for example, I used like a 16 speakers for this piece. So the A speakers was hanging, and then the rest of the speakers was grounded. So 16 speakers. Then I programmed my own spatialization system, which is basically the dynamic of real-time audio process for the instrument control the direction of sound in real time. So simply is depends on the dynamic, right? By the cello changing the direction of the sound. So like, and the sound is gonna be moving like this. So I wanted to do this. So this data of the spatialization system also manipulate the color of the lighting and video as well. So this data is really important from the instrument, and then to control all this spatialization. And then, so it was, but I used two different objects. So in Max MSP, there are two objects for spatialization. One is VBAP, and another one is ambisonic. So VBAP is more, it's really, actually, it's a bit weird that I use two different spatialization objects for one piece at the same time. Actually, no one do like this, but there are reasons. Because VBAP is moving, it's more XY, so which means it's moving, but it's more like left and right. You know what I'm saying? It's more two-dimensional. And while ambisonic is more characterized XYZ, so moving is like this. And actually, I used ambisonic first for my this my own spatialization system. This live audio process, the degree of the live audio control the direction of the sound, and it doesn't work. It works, but sometimes it doesn't work. So when I was testing, the dynamic of the instrument was too strong or too weak. Sometimes it sounds just disappear because the data is too complicated. Because ambisonic, I told you, they are three-dimensional, which means there are more data needs. So sometimes it doesn't work, and it just sounds disappear. And then I realized this is really risky if I do like this. So I decided I want to be safe. So I used VBAP, this this two-dimensional for live audio process. While the rest of other audio process, which are fixed data, run through the ambisonic, so XYZ. So this is, everything is fixed data. Is more, you can be controlled. If you test it, no problem, and then it works with the ambisonic. But as you know, in real-time audio process, the problem is it's spontaneous. It's not fixed. It can be always changing, so it's risky. Yeah, and then maybe a lot, really a lot. That's why it took 4 years to compose this piece. I mean, it's so many things. Yeah.
Yes, good. And how your cooperation with performer, right? How it shaped the piece.
Shape.
Or how you frequently speak with him, and you frequently give.
I'm sorry, what?
With performer, right?
Yeah. What is the interaction with the performer?
Yes. What is cooperation? What was cooperation with performance? With performer, and how it with musician, and how it is it changed somehow, shaped the piece?
So for the last concert, you mean, this piece was performed in, ZKM in Karlsruhe in Germany. So I work with Niklas Seidl from Ensemble Handwerk.
Yes.
Oh, do you know him?
No. No. I just yes.
Okay.
So that.
Okay, sure. And then, so there are many vocalizations on this piece. So he play cello while he also has to do some, vocalization. But on the score, I didn't use any emotional words on the score. Instead, I asked him to understand the musical content itself, then simply execute them in his way with his interpretation. So I did this like this because I told you, that's why I didn't want to say this piece was my very personal message, because if I say it and the people think, oh, this guy maybe wanted to die, or this piece is too personal, and
Yes.
this piece is think about my past, and then if I use, it's the same, it's the same interaction between the composer and performer. Of course, I didn't explain this to performer at all. Yes. At all. I didn't explain. And then also I didn't even use any words, like for example, please do crying, something like this, or please do vocalization like with the sorrow, something like this. I did, because if you use these emotional words and then performer pretend to do there's something that what expected, that what is sorrow, you know what I'm saying? So for example, when I say cry, no, sorrow, no, let's say cry on the score. If people see the word cry, each person maybe cry in a different ways, right? But performer see the cry. Usually performer doesn't execute what they feel, what can be cry. They usually imitate, or they kind of exaggerate that how people feel that this is a cry. So usually when I look at people see the cry on the score, they usually do most people don't cry like this, but this is kind of fixed image of the emotional, and that this is, to me, is really dangerous, because to me this is very one-dimensional, and that this is actually it's not creative for me. So when I worked with him, I didn't use any emotional words on the score. And so instead, I just asked him to understand the musical contents itself, then just simply execute them in his way with his interpretation. Then these sounds became, I told you, this without multimedia became much more abstract. I think this is another reason that I do like this. So through this process, he and I created a sensational new musical realization of the content. So although his execution was still very close to what I wanted, the different route allowed us both to come to a new realization that remained the truth to each of us. So I believe that this working process is the way to find myself from outside of my composition, and to find new perceptual way of composition. So this is another way that, I told you, since I came to Germany, I tried to step back from the composition. This is another way to working process between composer and the performer.
Yes.
However, and also, besides, I also adopted various notation styles into this piece. So for example, in the past, I tend to compose everything is written, everything, like mostly notated everything and exactly. However, for this piece, I notated 4 different ways. So first, I still use traditional notation, which is in the case, I want to control everything in the frame.
Yes.
Second, I also use a lot of graphic notation, which in the case, I control most of contents in the exact time frame, while I give a bit free to performers to control in terms of gestural configuration and accentuation. Third, I also use graphic notation with Senja tempo, which indicates performers control gestural configuration and accentuation within flexible time frame. So fourth, improvisatory phrases, which indicates performers control almost everything within my guideline and concept. So depends on the way of notations. I'm trying to make some balance of degree of controlling between a composer and performers. Do you remember you asked me about the structure? So I said at the beginning it's very controllable, but toward the end it's big, and then through this notation, at the beginning I control more. And so performer should be, run this music through, but toward the end he get the free, but he still get the concept. And then this is kind of like a who get the more power between the composer and the performers. I'm my background is improviser, so I'm not type of composer that okay, I'm a god, I'm a composer, you have to do whatever you want, and then I control everything. I'm not kind of composer, and that this is to me is one dimensional. I like interaction, and then the power control between composer and the performer.
Yes, got it. And when we talked last time, right? If I correctly understood, you said this was your last piece when you used multimedia, right?
Yes. Yes.
Why so?
Because there are many reasons. The first reason is at the time I was in the US, and my background is I'm from I don't know, I mentioned I'm South Korean, so I'm from Seoul. And
then you came to the United States, right?
Yes, to study.
And from the United States, you came to Germany.
Yes, and then so when I was in Korea, there's a Namjoon Park, who is a Korean multimedia artist, but he's known as first artist who used video and then laser. So he's quite famous in Europe, especially in Germany. And many Koreans are very proud that one Asian artist invented new genre. This is really new. So he's the first. So he's the first person that make the art using TV. He's the person that I want to use art for TV. He's the first person. And the second, and he also did like a camcorder. Camcorder was invented by Sony in Japan. But at the time he had many connection with the Sony. So when Sony invented the camcorder, he called the company, and I want to use this camcorder. I don't know what it is, but I want to use this, and I want to make art. So I don't know his art, but his art is everything's combined. So multidisciplinary. So he actually studied the music as well. So to me, I grew up with his art. So to me, it's very, at the time I was thinking the art is everything's combined.
Yes.
But when I studied the music, and then it's a different genre. It became different genre now. And then when I was in USA, so at the earlier my works was more like I got the many idea like a multidisciplinary art. And then I realized, and then since I came to Europe, I suddenly lose the interest first, because everybody using multimedia here. So I was thinking like, oh, everybody using this, and then why should I use this? Because at the time I told you that this piece was made 10 years ago. At the time was quite fresh. Yes. Because everything, but still I'm pretty sure not many multimedia artists complicated in that piece. This piece is really super complicated. And then since I came to Europe and so many people use, and then I feel like I don't want to follow like a fashion, okay, this is it's popular things that everybody using the multimedia, and I feel like, oh, I want to use this, this is the first reason that I stopped making multimedia piece. And the second reason is I wanted to focus on more sound. So since I came to Germany, and then I told you my aesthetic is different, and then I realized, okay, if I keep composing with the multimedia and sound, it composing multimedia pieces, especially to me, if you are famous, someone is gonna help you if you have a grant, right? But to me, I have to make my everything on my own. So which in the case, like for example, these pieces I spent my 4 years, at the time, to be honest, a lot of my colleagues thought that I'm stupid, to be honest, because most of my colleagues are interested in applying festival and then applying the competition, whatever. But I just composed one piece for 4 years.
For 4 years.
Exactly. And then people thought that why he's composing 4 years. And my teacher thought that hey, and he was very skeptical about these multimedia things that this super complex. He said, Han, my teacher is Roger Reynolds, and he said, oh, Han, this piece might be just one-shot event. So which means it's too complex. So maybe it happen one time, no one is gonna play this piece anymore. Yeah. So why do you do this? So, so since I came to Germany and I realized, okay, I want to develop my sound first. I have many ideas. Okay, maybe I developed my sound first. Maybe later on, if I feel maybe more confident my sound, and then I want to use again my multimedia. Yes. And then it's funny thing is now I restart composing multimedia piece now. It's gotta be much more complicated. You cannot believe it, but it's
even more complicated.
Yeah, right? Even much more complicated, and it's gonna be. Yeah, so these pieces also had already I spent 1 year, and then I don't think it's gonna happen next year, but hopefully within 3 years.
And now it's my last question, right?
Okay.
Continuing responding to your answers. And what is your main suggestion, right, to composers who have never tried a multimedia piece to compose? What would be the main message, main suggestion, right? Because you have experience to creating the multimedia piece like less than 10 years ago, right? How complex it was. Then you have a pause, and now you're doing again, right?
Yes.
So what from your experience, what is maybe the main suggestion to other composers?
To myself or to
other composers who have never tried?
Okay. First of all, I don't know. I told you I'm from improviser. To be honest, my status is a little bit weird because if, for example, 2 weeks, I told you 2 weeks ago I played improvisation, yes. And everybody said, "Oh, Han, you are improviser," but some people gave me critics like, "Han, but your music is so it doesn't sound like improvisation. It sounds like composition." Some people gave me critic. So it became much more, so which means unconsciously I'm composer, so my brain process is much more composer, even though I do improvisation.
Yes.
And then when I am in the area of composition, many people think that I'm not composer, I'm a more like noise musician. So my status is always around here. So to me, to be honest, I don't like the even word the composer. So yes. Because it has so many hierarchy, and also so many it's too much powerful meaning to me. And then I strongly believe that in the future, quite soon, there is no the meaning of composer is not important. For example, like 100 years ago, there are many people called a painter, right?
Yes.
Now, if you come to the art area, no one say painter. People just say we are visual artists. It's kind of, they became much more broad meaning. You know what I'm saying? So if you say, oh, I'm visual artist, and then you can be a multimedia artist, lighting artist, performance artist, painter, whatever. So sound also, it will be like this, I'm pretty sure. So now we still stick to this hierarchy, composer, but I believe that soon it became much more just sound art. And it became much more, everything is just broad. And then later on, other art area, everything is intermingle each other. You know what I'm saying? So maybe in the future, we don't need to say you are artist or you are composer, you are experimental artist. It don't no longer need that. So which means I believe that we need to prepare for this. So using the multimedia, it can be one of our maybe tool that maybe we can push the boundary of the concept of the art or sound or whatever. And then to me, I have a very okay. Oh, thank you for this question. This is really important actually, because I have a many visual artists. This is really critical thing about it. So if someone want to do like I will say if composers want to do multimedia, I want to say please don't follow passion, because when I go to the multimedia, contemporary music, multimedia art, everything is definitely came from specific some multimedia composers art. You know what I'm saying? So for example, I was a resident in Slovenia, Ljubljana. So I work with visual artists and the performance artists. And then I show some multimedia art, which made by composers, two visual artists. And the visual artists say, "Hon, sorry to say, this is not art." Or they were very critical about it. They say, this is very out of fashion. Because, for example, now sound art is conceptual art, and gesture, this kind of art is very popular in contemporary music art. This is really new. This is really new in the contemporary music art field. But actually, this is not new for general whole art, because it had already happened to the other area. So we need to think about it. So if you want to use multimedia, or if you want to do these things, not only look at the other composers' multimedia works, please look at the other art, other art. For example, when I start, making my lighting, and then I met one lighting designer when I was in San Diego. And then I asked him, oh, I wanted to do, like it's popping up, is. And then he said, "Hon, this is just pop music, the way of using the pop art, discotheque, this pop music is pop up." And then I asked him, okay, then show me what is the real, do you think that what is more like advanced lighting art? And then he bring the one just lamp, and he close to me a bit like this, and then sometimes change the angle like this, and then change the soul like this angle, and then sometimes he looked at this, and then he said, we recorded a video of my face, and then he said, "Hon, look at this shadow of what is the changing. Your face doesn't never express, but how this lighting show that your face looks like changing the expression." So it's like, I was shocking, like I never think about it. And then when you work with the multimedia composers, they never think about this way. And I was like, wow. So my suggestion is, please talk with many artists from outside the composers, and then try to find your way, not imitate the other composers, what they do it. It must be came from your brain. It's not came from other composers do and they just follow the fashion. This
Thank
is
you
really
very much.
important.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
our
Thank you for
for
having me. Thank you for having me.